Hey everybody, what's going on? Rob Cesternino back again. And today, day 3 of our Survivor 47 preview, we're going to talk about and hear from 2 more contestants as we round out our first tribe as we talk about Saul and Teeny here with a guy who talked to them both before they played Survivor 47. Give it up for Mike Bloom.
Yes, I better call Saul, and I called Teeny as well. We talked over Zoom, and yeah, very excited to not only talk to 2 other big personalities on this season, even if one of them is named Teeny, but also, Rob, now get to have a full bird's eye view of what the Lavo tribe might be for the first half of the season.
Okay. All right. So we'll do maybe a little bit of that at the end of the podcast after we hear from both of these players. You can, of course, see everything we've done on day 1 and day 2 by making sure you're subscribed either to our YouTube channel or robiswebsite.com/subscribe. All right, Mike, up first, we're going to hear from Saul. What do you want to set up about Saul?
Yeah, so Solomon Yee, though he goes by Saul, at least in this interview, is 42 years old. He is the oldest man on the cast from Weston, Connecticut, from my old neck of the woods, Rob, back in southwestern Connecticut. And he is a therapy sales rep for a deep brain stimulation. And I will butcher the description of it. He has a much more eloquent way of describing it in our interview. But yeah, suffice it to say, this is a guy that has a very solid way of looking at things, in a manner of speaking.
All right. So let's hear from Saul and then we'll come back and talk about it after the interview.
Well, let's start with the easy stuff here. Why don't you give me your name, your age, and your occupation?
I'm Solomon Yee. I'm 42 years old, and I'm from, or you didn't ask me, I'll tell you anyways. I'm from,
Sure.
originally from Oklahoma. I live in Weston, Connecticut now, and I am a deep brain stimulation therapy representative. It's the best job in the world. I,
Okay. You're gonna have to
yeah,
tell me about what that is, especially
yeah,
because it's the best job in the world.
yeah. So basically, I help people with neurodegenerative disorders like Parkinson's disease, epilepsy,
Mm,
OCD, um, and it's a life-changing therapy. Like these people, they have been dealt a hand that they have no control over, and their lives are crap because of these, the symptoms that come from, for example, Parkinson's. Like you're just shaking like this 24/7,
mm.
and DBS or deep brain stimulation. We basically put electrodes in the brain. Not me, I wish I did, but the neurosurgeons put electrodes in the brain and the part of your brain that control your movement. And once we turn it on, it's like a pacemaker. There's a pacemaker like device in the chest. I'm sorry, the leads are in the brain, but there's a generator in the chest that delivers electricity to the brain. And then boom, those tremors stop like in an instant.
Wow. So
Yeah.
then let's talk about, a major career shift, as it were, maybe temporarily to Survivor player. Talk to me about your history with the show and what brought you out from Western Connecticut to the islands of Fiji.
Well, I'm like a COVID baby. I had never seen
Ooh.
Survivor, yeah, until 2020. My colleague from work, she was, we're feeding off each other. Like, what are you watching now? What are you watching? She's like, oh, I'm watching Survivor. I'm like, oh, damn, that show's still on. And she goes, yes, it's the best show ever. I'm like, all right, I'll give this a try. And boom, first episode, I'm hooked. Like, I watched like 4 seasons in like a week. I'm not kidding you. And I just remember going, something inside of me was telling me, like, you have to try to play this game. And I applied once, probably in 2021,
Hmm.
and it was, I almost said cursed. I don't want to break any rules here. You
No, I
tell
mean you
me.
can you haven't been talking for a while, so feel free to say whatever comes
Okay.
to mind, as explicit as it may
Um,
be.
I made a shit video. Like I was trying to impress, I wasn't being myself. I was trying to think, what do they want from me? And try to put something out there like that. And when I submitted it, I just knew I wasn't going to get on. And then literally almost every day for 2 years, it's like I had this itch inside of me, like, dude, apply again, apply again, apply again. And it is hard to apply, but that itch just, it wouldn't go away. And finally I'm like, fuck it, just try again. And I really tried to be myself in it, really try to bring it. And just because I knew, like, dude, you're 42, man. You ain't got that much longer to play this game. And so, yeah, I brought it, and I don't know why they picked me, but I'm like so blessed to be here right now. Like you guys, I don't know if you've ever been to Fiji, but I've been here for, I mean, yeah, it's like as soon as I stepped off the plane, I'm like, got slapped in the face with this beauty. And like, I'm just, I'm in heaven right now. Like, I'm married and my wife's not here. So she might get a little upset about this, but she'd also be very, very happy for me. Yeah, I haven't even been there that long, and my outlook on life has just changed dramatically.
Oh, wow, that's
Yeah.
amazing. Well,
Yeah.
I know you're a recent convert to Survivor, but look, better late than never, first off.
Yeah.
Second off, from all the seasons you've recently blitzed your way through, give me one winner and one non-winner who you identify with the most.
Definitely Gabler. Um, Gabler and I were both in medical sales, but that's really that's not necessarily why. It's I don't know Gabler obviously, but I feel like Gabler has gone through some shit in his life
Hmm.
and he's overcome it. And but his attitude, it the way he just his outlook on life is beautiful. And when I saw that, it really did inspire me. And um, his his ability to create bonds with people. I remember in the final tribal council, he had a story about every single individual person
Hmm.
with those one connections that he's made. I'm really good at that. I've had to do that. I've had to develop one-on-one relationships with people, just because of how I was raised. And if I wanted to go anywhere in life, that's what I had to do. And when I saw that him do that, they don't really show that on the each episode, but they did explain it in that final jury, and that really hit home to me. He has an incredible. He's very self-aware. I remember in that first episode, like he tried to, or not in the first episode, one of the first few episodes, he took somebody out. He's like, "Man, I need to go under the water now because I'm up here right now.
Yeah, the
Everyone's seeing me."
alligabler.
Exactly, yeah, and I really hope they can't hear me. Um, but yeah, like I'm very self-aware. I have I don't know what to call it, but I can see things that and pick up on things that maybe most people can't. That gives me information on like, okay, you need to calm down, Saul, or hey, that person's a little upset with you right now, Saul. You should probably go talk to him or her. And then as far you said a non-winner,
Non-winner as well, yeah.
the flip side of that is Adam.
Oh,
Isn't that his name, Adam, with the long hair? He got voted out. He was the first member on the jury, um, the season D one.
Caleb?
Caleb. Yes, very charismatic guy. Like could connect with anybody. I love doing that. Like I love going to parties. I love, you know, I'll talk to you for 1 minute, develop a relationship really quickly, and then I'm bored. I'll go to the next person. And the problem with that is, and I learned from Caleb, is that you can't be doing that right now. And I'm dying like that. That's the hardest part of this is like, I just want to like celebrate with everybody and like just develop bonds with everybody. But I also don't want to be the first on the jury or be the first one voted out. So yeah, I can really identify with that too.
Yeah. So if I were to ask you, what is your biggest superpower and your biggest piece of kryptonite that you're bringing into the game? Is that superpower what you were speaking before with Gabler about that like adaptability and ability to connect one on one with so many people?
I would call it it's not willpower. I mean, yes, what you just said, I absolutely have those capabilities and they're very, very strong uh, skills for me. But I call it, it's not willpower, it's called Saul power.
Solar power, if you will.
Well, my name's Solomon and people call me Saul.
Uh huh.
So when people say, you got a lot of willpower, man, I'll be like, who's Will? I got Saul power. And Saul power to me is like, I can do anything. Um, And being picked to be on this show, it's proven to me because if there's any doubt in the world, the things that I've tried to do, that's all gone now because I'm on freaking Survivor. Like
Yeah.
that's undeniable. They picked me to play this game. And so now Saul Power is at its fullest strength. Like nothing can stop me. Now, don't get me wrong. I understand I might not win this game, but do I believe I will win this game? Absolutely.
There you go.
And that's like I think for me, that's the biggest thing there is because if you don't believe you can win, if you don't believe that you can do anything, then you're probably not going to. And whether you're right or wrong, that doesn't matter. It's the point is believe in yourself. It's not cockiness, it's not arrogance. It's just a belief that you can do anything. And
Mm.
that's probably my biggest strength is my belief in myself.
Now, what
Um,
about the other side of things? Yeah, what stands the greatest chance of bringing down that Saul power?
Man, the bring Saul Powers, it's I feel like when I walk into a room, like I grew up in Oklahoma. I'm a Korean kid. Weren't very many Koreans in the room. When I'd walk into a room, all eyes would be on me. And in order for me to um, at least have a chance in Oklahoma, I had to do something. I had to so I made people laugh. And I've done that my entire life. And so in this game, if you that could be my kryptonite is that I could walk into the room and people would be like, "Hey, that guy is dangerous. Get him the hell out of here." That could
Oh,
be my kryptonite.
interesting. Sort of like
Yeah.
the jam side of things of like, oh, he's making us laugh. That means that people will want to keep him around. He's dangerous.
If they're smart, they will see that. And well, let me rephrase that. If I don't tone it down and I am my absolute self and they don't notice that, like, damn, he's good, then that's their problem. But if and they are, I'm sure they are very smart. They will notice that. So that will be my kryptonite if I don't tone it down.
Well, let's talk about some of these people that might be laughing it up at your jokes for the next 26 days. I'm sure you're picking up vibes from people over the past few days. Who are some people that you're getting good vibes from that, like, best case scenario, you wind up on the beach with them with day one? These are possible ride or dies.
It's a hard question to ask or answer because we're just here chilling. But
Oh, yeah.
there's one person. Um, she's the shortest person here, and just got a very warm smile. And every time I've looked at her, um, we've just like I don't know. I'm feeling it at least. I'm like that girl could be like we could be tight here. We could take this thing the whole way. Um, it's also we're very, very different in terms of, I don't think anyone would ever catch it. So
Mm.
she's probably one. And then hmm, there's another person that when we were at the hotel going to the bus, the first person that I saw, we kind of connected, and we've been like kind of unintentionally being like around each other a lot. Um, But other than that, I'm trying not to like go too deep with
Mm.
who I play with right now because I know that everything's going to change once we can start talking. So I hope that I'm sure that's not a great answer, but yeah, that's where my mind is right now.
What is the biggest thing you're taking away from Survivor 45 and 46 that you're incorporating into your own gameplay in 47?
I think right now you just got to keep my mind right the entire way. Don't get my emotions too high. Don't ever get low. Stay in the middle. Um, that's my biggest takeaway. Like, because when you get emotional and you start getting crazy, your thoughts are just your decision making is very, very poor. Um, and the other thing too is, and Jeff said this actually, act like it's your second time to play.
Mm.
Um, I am I'm not a pro poker player by any means, but I love poker. I've won over $200,000 playing Texas Hold'em in tournaments,
Oh my
and it's
goodness.
yeah, it's a passion of mine. I'm not a professional by any means, but when he said that to me, or when not to me, when Jeff said that to me, uh, I understood exactly what he meant. When you're playing poker, you have to take risks and you might lose and you might go home. But if you don't take those risks, you will absolutely never, ever win a poker tournament. And so it's got to be the same thing here. I have to take risks. And so keeping a level head, but understanding you better take some risks, dude. Otherwise, you ain't going to win.
Yeah, is that going to be incorporated into things like idols, advantages,
Oh,
journeys? You're taking any opportunity you can?
oh, yeah. I mean, well, probably. I mean, I'm definitely smart about it. Like, I'm gonna like if there's a beware advantage, I'm not just gonna say, "Yep, I'm doing it." Like, I'm gonna make sure that I like level-headed, read it, make sure that it's beneficial and strategic for me, my game. But at the same time, I'll tell you, going back to this current season right now, idle plays. Like, what the hell? Like, guys, come on! What are you doing? Read the room. And I, I'm gonna. It's very easy to say that, like on the couch, So I hope I don't do that here. But at the same time, I ain't planning on using idols like a shield. I'm using them as weapons. I will be targeting people. Um, we'll see how many times I play an idol on myself, but I genuinely anticipate to play idols for other people more than I do on myself. That's what kind of game I'm trying to play.
What is your most controversial Survivor opinion? What's your hottest take about a season, a player, the show in general?
So my parents, my family, they've been like, don't lie. Make sure that you're being honest with everybody. Don't come off as a person who's, a liar or a sleazeball. I'm like, that's my pet peeve. It's like, guys, this is a game. This ain't real life. You know who I am as a person. I'm trying to play a game. And the best way to play a game is to lie your ass off. So, like, I'm going to deceive people. Like, that's what I was telling them. Like, stop it. Stop it. And so that's my pet peeve. Like, who goes into a game and, like, I'm not sure if, like, for example, like Balderdash, where
Mm.
you write a definite. Could you imagine, like, if you played that game telling the truth there? Like, why are we playing then? Well, what is the point of this? It's like, you know, that's my pet peeve. It's like, this is a
Mm.
game. Like, relax, chill out. This is not who I genuinely am. Now, don't get me wrong. I'm going to be a lot of the show. I'm going to be myself. I have to be. That's how I'm going to create bonds. But in terms of strategic gameplay, I mean, I got to do what I got to do. And if you're not, then you ain't gonna win. That's just the
Mm.
truth.
Yeah. Last thing I want to ask, if you could bring a celebrity or a fictional character out as a loved one for a loved one's visit on the island, who would it be and why?
A celebrity or a fictional character.
Yep.
Wow. Um, I gotta go with my boy Matt Damon. Um,
Ooh, there we go. Jimmy Kimmel will not be happy.
hey, fuck you, Jimmy Kimmel,
Why? Why is that?
because that's what Matt Damon always says to him.
No, no. I mean in general. I not the that
Oh yeah,
attitude
yeah.
aside. Yeah. Why you a big Damon head?
Um, I just like his. I think he's one of the best actors, and I could use some coaching from the best actor in my opinion, to act better than I already can. And and on the loved one. Oh, and by the way, everyone would probably be like, "Oh, you're friends with Matt Damon." I'm like, "Yes, my boy."
There we go as well. And I'm
Yeah.
sure once you end up blindsiding someone, you can hold up your vote and say, "How about them apples?"
Exactly, because I got a number.
Uh, well, this was such a great time to talk with you. I know that
Awesome.
obviously there's probably so many feelings that are swirling about in your head
Yeah.
right now as you're just waiting for your feet to hit the sand. But I can tell just by talking with you, you have, for lack of a better term, a great heart and soul. So I am so excited that you get this chance to showcase yourself
Thank
to
you.
us, to yourself as well. And I'm sure it's all pins and needles right now, but I can't wait to see what happens with you over the next 26 days.
Oh, thank you. It's like I cried this morning. Like we went to the beach. I was there by myself. It was so beautiful, and I have never done that before. So I'm going to cherish this next 26 days like I've never cherished anything before. I'm so lucky. I'm so blessed, and doing this with you, it's so fun. So thank you.
All right, Mike, there you have it. There's Sol Yee.
Saul Yi. And I will say the word that comes to mind for me when it comes to Saul is sustainable. And I'm not just speaking about the fact that he has his own internalized source of power, apparently, with the self-proclaimed Saul power, but Saul just seems like a guy that seems very grounded and has, I think, an all-around pretty good set of skills to do well in a game like this.
Sustainable.
Yeah,
And
I think.
I've never heard a person described as sustainable. What do you mean by that?
Well, I think it's the fact that this is somebody who comes in, and yes, he is a more recent fan of Survivor, but again, I think he'd be a little more surprised to know that he's surrounded by more of those types of people than he may think. Hell, Rome, who's the last person we talked about this, is even more of a recent fan than him. But I feel like between his physical status, and perhaps his life experience, giving him a very grounded way of looking at things, but also having a little bit of a streak of strategy to him in the form of his poker skills. I think he's set up to do at least pretty well in a
Oh,
season like this.
see, I feel like that for me, that Salt, I feel like came across as like mysterious.
Oh,
Like I feel like
interesting.
that he to me was almost like holding back. And I wonder if, and I think that I found him to be fascinating. I really feel like that he seems like a character who's like stepped out of like a prestige drama. Like he seems like such an interesting
Better Call
person.
Saul, maybe.
Better Call Saul, especially that when he says that, like, what one thing he's not going to be afraid to do is lie in this game, like another Saul that we've seen on television. So I just think he seems like I mean, he has a super interesting job. This focusing on deep brain stimulation, which again sounds like something that would be fake in a movie or a TV show. Like, that I've been working on my deep brain stimulation technique. Not to imply that it's anything but the legit truth in his real life, but it does sound a little bit out there. And he seems like a guy that his way of speaking, I thought like was I was at the edge of my seat, not knowing what he's going to say, but he doesn't seem outwardly gregarious to me, and I do wonder how he's going to fit in when and maybe that's people will come to him as opposed to. He also said that he was going to have to hold back a little bit, that he has this wild side of his personality.
Which was interesting, right?
But I wasn't getting that from hearing from him.
I mean, I don't disagree. You know, he compares himself to Caleb, talks about how like his piece of kryptonite, right, was like, oh, when I usually walk in, I'm having everyone laughing, everyone's yelling Saul, like it's Cheers or something. But I have to pare back on that because much like Caleb, I don't want to be the one to stick out. And yeah, again, maybe it was just, I don't know, the time and place we were speaking, or maybe, it wasn't coming across over the medium we were using. I wasn't necessarily getting that as well. But to your point, maybe when he has people in front of him or the game actually settles in, he'll be able to turn that on. Though, much like a faucet, like you need to be able to turn it down to a drip as well sometimes. Otherwise, again, as we've seen very recently, that's something that could get you targeted almost immediately come a merge situation.
Okay, what else stood out to you, Mike?
Yeah, so let's talk about Saul's poker side, as it were, because
poker players have not done great on Survivor.
Yeah. I Saul does give me a little bit of, I don't know if it's just like his size, but a little bit of Jean Robert energy as well. Perhaps one of the best poker players, ironically enough, to do well on a Survivor. But I'm intrigued to see what Saul is going to reveal about his background, because obviously, I would imagine he's going to obfuscate the poker stuff because that comes with such a stigma associated with it. But something that I'm surprised he didn't really talk about as much when it came to his own interpersonal skills is the fact that he does work in sales. And look, it's been a little while since we've had this conversation, not since the days of Cody Ossenmacher and Justine Brennan. But I do wonder, is he going to be sales forward when it comes to his job? And how much might that semi come up, especially if he does open up and be a bit more gregarious and personable as he says he usually does that come with then a veneer of people thinking, okay, are you just trying to pitch me on something?
Yeah, I don't know if he ends up. I don't think he should talk about that in the game. I'm thinking that if he sticks with I'm a therapist and I work with people and I help them over. I mean, he had a very great description of like what he gets to do and helping people with all sorts of like horrible diseases that he can really, I think, come across well. I just he says he'll play idols on other people.
Yes, which I think, may not be great for him, but if I'm looking for an ally, that's a fantastic quality to have. Like, you want to use them as weapons. I mean, this is right out of Carolyn playing the idol on Carson, right? And yes,
that could help him, honestly.
Yeah, I think it's something that invites you to want to work with somebody, right? Of like, oh, you have an asset that you will use on our behalf cumulatively. Great. I'd much rather work with you than somebody who's just going to sit on that thing and not tell me about it and then maybe selfishly use it on yourself. So I do think, depending on what parts of himself Saul opens up to others, I think he could get in good somewhere. I also think he is one of the probably physically strongest people on this tribe. He does list in his bio that one of his hobbies is CrossFit. And there is some talk by some of these other players that we'll get into about like him being, I think, one of the bigger guys that they refer to. So again, I would imagine strength isn't everything, but in these 6-person tribes, it certainly helps in the beginning. I just envision a situation where like Saul is able to maybe blend in personality wise with some of the bigger people around him while also being personified as an asset to the tribe, and then kind of becomes like a nice ride or die down the line. Is that a winning strategy? I don't know necessarily. And maybe, much like we saw with Hunter, could Saul's physical prowess work against him in the merge? But ironically enough, despite it being on a red tribe, I don't see many red flags about him initially.
He said he had great vibes with the very short girl. Is that who we're going to talk about next?
See, I am assuming so. I didn't get a chance, obviously, to get the heights from these people because I didn't see them in person. But I think there was also talk about maybe Caroline being a bit smaller. I'd like to imagine that it is Teeny, just because I do think a Saul Teeny alliance, which just sound like a nice happy hour drink, could be a fun, low key dynamic to see on this tribe.
Okay, Mike, we should talk about Teeny. Anything else on Saul?
No, nothing else on Saul at the moment. Again, I'm very intrigued to see. My brain is stimulated, Rob, by this conversation with
Mission
Saul.
accomplished.
Yeah, I think that there's an interesting amount of potential to him, but those upsides come with downsides as well.
Okay, we got one more person to talk about. Let's talk about Teeny when we come back right after this. Mike, the sixth and final member of the Lavo tribe that we have to talk about is Teeny.
Yes, so Teeny Chirichillo, she is 23 years old, currently in Manahawkin, New Jersey, and she is, or I should say, was a tech consultant, a associate solutions architect, but she's one of those people that left their job shortly before coming out to Survivor, hoping to net $1 million paycheck.
Okay, all right. So formerly of the tech world, now in the Survivor world.
Yes, quite the opposite, unless you count those coconut phones.
Yeah. Okay. Mike, anything you want to set up about Teeny?
Teeny is, it's tough. This is a heavy competition to see, Rob. Who is the biggest super fan in this cast? I know we've been talking about a lot of recent fans, but Teeny is someone who lives and dies by Survivor. She wrote in her bio as
hopefully just lives.
Yeah, exactly. As one of her favorite hobbies, she said, literally Survivor, avid podcast listener, attend all nearby watch parties, have played mock versions, written research essays, and find a way to weave it into every conversation I have with someone new I meet. Not kidding. So this is someone who comes in with a deep-seated love and passion for the game, as well as the content around it, which means perhaps identifying one of a couple of notable faces in this season.
Okay. All right. Let's listen to Mike's interview with Teeny. We'll come back and talk about Teeny and then all of the Lavo tribe in full.
All right. How are you doing right now?
I am feeling good that I'm talking to you. Otherwise, a little bit paranoid taking in everybody. So thrilled to be here. This has been forever a dream of mine. And yeah, overall, I'd say pretty good.
Well, listen, I'll hopefully be a friendly face that you can come to in the midst of all the other treachery around you. But I'll start you off nice and easy here. Why don't you give me your name, age, and occupation?
Okay, so my name is Teeny. I am currently 23 years old. So my occupation, I had to basically quit my job to come out here, but I was working as a tech consultant. And I think the story of how I got that job is more interesting and will probably appeal to more people than the actual work of being a tech consultant.
Do tell, please.
Okay, so it all starts, I was 16 years old. I was scrolling on my phone as I do, and I saw a meme on Instagram that was like, if you text the phone number that's like one digit above or below your own, that's your text door neighbor, like a play on next door neighbor. So obviously, I pull out my phone, I do it, the text goes through blue, I know it's delivered. And on the other end, the person responds. And we have this back and forth conversation, not revealing who we are, anything. And then it comes out. At the time I was 16, she was 26. We ended up kind of maintaining this friendship. She lived in New York City. She was the first person I ever came out of the closet to. And then when I was in college, she actually helped put me in touch with the tech company she worked for. And then at 22 years old, when she was 32, we worked together at this company. So yeah, that's like a crazy story. I feel like, yeah.
But what a perfect setup for a type of show where it's, hey, I don't know you from a hole in the wall, but we have to work together to create this communal exercise. Pretty much part and parcel what you just did with your text door neighbor.
Precisely. Yeah. I feel like that story is like very representative of kind of like how I like can create and maintain relationships and like how I also kind of spontaneously fall ass backwards into jobs and things like that, which is, I think, a skill that could really help me here.
Well, you mentioned Survivor being, a long held dream. I know you wrote in your bio that, one of your hobbies is literally Survivor and everything contained in and around it. So give me your history with the show and what made you decide to, say, I've been a super fan for so long. I think it's time I start being a player.
Right. So my mom watched the show from its conception, which is like right on par with my conception. It came out a few months before I was born. Um, and she saw me like running around backstage at like my sister's dance recital, just kind of wheeling and dealing with all of the dancers and was like, she's going to win Survivor one day. So she put me onto it. It was Fabio's season, which randomly I feel like a lot of people start with Nicaragua.
Everyone's feeling that post heroes versus villains glow. They're like, surely the next thing should be great.
Yeah, exactly. And like for some reason, it's like a lot of people's first seasons, and for some reason it hooks us. I feel like it's like if you like it and you get it, even if it's like Nicaragua. So I started watching it. I was also a huge Big Brother fan. I don't know if that's like a bad word to say around here. I was obsessive about reality TV and watching adults communicate and fight and all of that from like a very young age. It was just my passion. And yeah, I've just been obsessed with Survivor. I wore a buff every single day of high school. I've like, gone out of my way to pest players. I don't even know if you're aware. The two of us have a picture together at one of the New York. Yeah, we do.
Yeah. So once I saw your face, I'm like, okay, I have quite literally this picture perfect memory when it comes to it.
Yeah. So yeah, I've met Survivor players in extremely serendipitous ways. Like I met Dean Kowalski, was eating at my restaurant one summer before his season even came out, and the two of us kind of like forged this friendship. I hung out with Richard Hatch when I was 19, when I was visiting Rhode Island, and just shot him a long DM about, hey, I'm a super big fan. So we went out to lunch, and I've tried to, incorporate Survivor into my life in so many ways. But I think the place in life that I'm at now, in college, I'd made a few audition tapes and I watched them back and I was like, there's just something not right here. Like, I am not ready. Like, something about the way I'm articulating myself isn't real. I needed to kind of, I feel like, get out of college, kick a few of my like college-esque habits. And I lived in New York City for a year. I moved back home. I was like, now's the time. I applied and it's worked out.
So looking back upon your voluminous knowledge of Survivor, give me one winner and one non-winner who you identify with the most. Any of those previous names popping up?
So my winner is Mike White, and it's Scudder there. I feel like Mike White, I relate to so much. I feel like he sort of was strategically and physically underestimated, which is what I anticipate like my energy will be. And I feel like he is just really good at like making genuine relationships with people and like having just sort of like very subtle ways of doing so. Like just like the way I feel like he can like look at people and make them feel comforted and just like tiny moments and things like that. And just kind of like forgoing the bullshit. I feel like I don't know if I can curse, but I feel like I'm just somebody who can like really get to the heart of somebody quickly in a way that he can. And I also think that I'm a writer as well. And that's like something I definitely want to explore more after this. It's something I do on the side, both kind of professionally and just personally. And I feel like the way that I sort of like conceptualize things is similar to him. I have a cynicism that is like him. And yeah, I hope to play like him. And then non-winner, I feel like Ty is somebody who I'm like. I feel like Ty, I am very sensitive. I feel like Ty is also very sensitive. The aspects of the game that are like super like numerical and things like that are like going to be a struggle for me. Like the very like technical like strategic parts are not things that like I always need to listen to like 20 RHAP podcasts to understand like the prisoner's dilemma things and stuff like that. And I feel like Ty also didn't have like the tightest grasp on that aspect of the game, but he had such freedom within relationships because people liked him, and he was a very present player who made decisions and had the freedom to make decisions based on just like his intuition and things like that. And I feel like that's a way that I will also play. And he's both of his placements are awesome. So
yeah. So like third and fourth, nothing to sneeze at. Absolutely. To that point, give me your biggest superpower and your biggest piece of kryptonite you're bringing into the game. Does that relate to what you were just talking about being a bit less numbers oriented or a bit more soul oriented, as it were?
Perfectly put. Yeah. So I think that like my biggest superpower will be my social relationships and my ability to make people feel comfortable, my ability to kind of like hopefully bring just like, yeah, a sense of home to people around camp. And also just like to be this sort of like bumbling little sibling type character energy, like for people in a tie and sort of also in a Lane Stott way, that I think like disarm people about me. But I think, yeah, my kryptonite would definitely be that I just am not very left brained. Like puzzles are, you could give me 24 hours with a puzzle and it's just not gonna go too well. I've practiced a lot and I've improved, but that kind of thing. And yeah, just like the types of like very technical, like vote splitting type things I'm gonna need help with. So I'm sure like hopefully working with people and kind of being a yin and yang situation is what I'm looking for.
You talk about studying the puzzles to the best of your ability. Obviously, again, as a student of the game, what has your prep process been like once you found out you were coming out to play?
Yeah, so I did CrossFit 5 days a week for like 3 months, but then my shoulder and my back started to hurt, and I was like, I don't really need to like keep like increasing my deadlift weight. Like that's not necessarily gonna like help me so much. So once I got like that sort of foundational athleticism, I just took it back to Judgment Free Zone, Planet Fitness, and was working out there. I also like live by a beach, very close to a beach, so I would like go to the beach and do some sprints and run there to get used to like the sand and things like that. Um, I did do puzzles. I have like 3 or 4 survivor puzzles that I would sit down and do every single day just to get my brain, you know, used to how a puzzle works, because that's just not something in my wheel of tricks. But also I practice fire every single day. Got pretty good at doing that. And I would also try to every weekend like put myself in a situation with entirely new people just so I could like gauge how new people responded to me, like different types of people, how quickly I could get somebody to like me, what types of people I felt like were harder to. So I would sort of just try and put myself, you know, either on a bar stool next to a stranger and talk to them, or just at a completely just ask my friends to bring me along to different situations.
All right. So you mentioned at the very beginning how you're happy to see, a familiar face on behalf of all the strangers that are around you. I'm sure you have takes about them. Talk to me about some people that you're picking up good vibes from. You think best case scenario, we hit the beach on day one. This could be a ride or die for me.
Okay, so I'm going to start with someone who I think you and I both know, and that is AW, who I recognize to be a RHAP podcaster. So yeah, I saw her and I was like, I think it's her. Got a little closer. Was like, I'm 99% sure. Heard like the smallest snippet of her voice. I was like, I'm 100% sure that is an RHAP podcaster. Would love to work with her. Have no intentions of telling anybody that she's an RHAP podcaster, because that would also reveal that I know who a really niche commentator of Survivor is. And I think if I'm trying to blow up her spot for being a super fan in that way, I'd be, simultaneously taking myself down too. But would love to work with her. Obviously, I'm a huge fan of RHAP. Think she's amazing, and like that would be great. Um, Also, Almond Mom. I don't even know if she is a mother. I don't know if she has children, but
She
like
could be mother.
well, that's what I was just gonna say. I'm like, she is mother to me. I'm obsessed with her. Like, I love her vibes. Just like the woman who's a little bit older than the rest of us with blonde hair. She seems like one of my friend's moms who I'd like sit around the counter and drink wine with and talk shit with. And like, I would love to be with her. Yesterday, she was wearing like head to toe blue. And I'm like, I don't know if this is like an overt signal to all of us that you're on the blue tribe, which I'm on the red tribe. So I kind of mourned just in preparation that she will not be with me, but would love to eventually get to play with her. There's a guy who's tall, who has some facial hair, and he's skinny, and he just kind of reminds me of New Jersey. Like, he looks like sort of an amalgamation of like all the cross country boys from my high school and like every line cook from every restaurant I've worked in, which is like oddly like really like comforting to me. There's
Ah,
a there's a Hawaiian girl who has a really like nice smile. She's charming the pants off of everybody. I've saw her at the airport like chatting up the guy at the ticket line. I've seen her she's made me feel good. I'm sure she's made everybody feel good. So I think she'll do really well. I could go on and on, dude.
Well,
really,
let's go to the other side. Name a couple people that maybe you're not picking up some good vibes from.
Yeah, so there's two. So one of them has the haircut that I had all throughout high school, which is like down pin straight down to my shoulders. It's a dude. He parts it like at his ear. I think his initials are AR. I've seen him every step of this process. Literally, when I was at my finals, I saw him, and he's just giving me nothing, absolutely nothing. Like, I've convinced myself he hates me. Anything I've gotten for him has just been like that dead eyes, just like. And so there's him, and then there's also the other guy with shoulder length hair. Both of them have been putting it up in man buns, which is like questionable. And so both of them, and I've also just convinced myself that they will be on my starting tribe, and I've just started to try and mentally prepare myself for that. But yeah, both of them have just been giving out. Like, they have not been playing the eye contact game, have not been playing the wink game, and I'm like, I don't get that. So obviously they could be very different, but that's where I'm at.
What's your most controversial Survivor opinion? What's your hot take?
My hot take is that I believe every season of Survivor should have a handful of people who do not know a single thing about the show, who have not really seen it, who have maybe seen a season that was shown to them. Like,
are you just manifesting this that you hope that's the case on your season?
Okay, listen, here's the thing. Of course, I would like that, because then I could, it would work well for me. But in general, like, even on Nicaragua, like, Nyanka was plucked off of a boardwalk. I'm pretty sure Courtney Yates was taken from a restaurant in New York City. Like, some of the most captivating, entertaining people who play just unpredictably and who are kind of learning the ropes as it goes are people who just aren't, me, who literally has a picture with you and, like, knows every little intricate detail of this game. Of course, it would be beneficial to us game bots because, we can kind of like take advantage of their cluelessness. But I also just think it just adds a level of like entertainment and unpredictability to a game where, like, even, as many twists as you can make, like, the people who really know their shit, sorry, I keep cursing, the people who like know their stuff, or at least just know that they have to adapt to those kinds of things, like adding people who don't know any of that would just be super cool.
Quick last thing, you know how I end these interviews. If you could bring a celebrity or a fictional character out for a loved one's visit, who do you pick and why?
Yeah, so it's so tough because I have so many like parasocial relationships with all sorts of celebrities and fictional characters. My like fictional characters are probably the most like unreliable narrators. Like, I love girls, so I wouldn't pick like Hannah Horvath to give me any advice. Yeah. And I probably wouldn't pick Nancy Botwin from Weeds, which is my other like favorite show. But I think that I would honestly bring Trisha Paytas out here because
oh my god.
I don't know if that'll be controversial. I think some people will eat that up, but it's because I feel like there's only so much like strategic, I feel like, conferencing I could do to really help me. Like, Trisha would be someone to gossip with. She would make me laugh. It would be like a lifelong dream to meet her. It would be like meeting her on behalf of like me and all my friends who are obsessed with her. And I just feel like she would really bring me just like a joy and a light and like a laughter that I need. And she'd probably also bring like tons of fast food to eat, which would be really helpful too. So that's who I'm gonna pick. Maybe I'll regret it later and come up with someone else, but that's my pick right now.
I love it. And listen, everything you were saying about what Trisha brought, I think you brought to this interview. I remembered when we met and I picked up such a warmth from you there. And I'm so happy we got it here in the form of watching you become a future Survivor player. I am so excited for you. You may be teeny, but you're going to make such big steps in this game. And I am so excited to see what happens with you.
Thank you, Mike. It was really good to talk to you. This has been a dream of mine as much as Survivor has been too. So,
oh my God, no, the pleasure was all mine. So best of luck. I know I'm throwing you sort of back into, the kettle pot of anxiety, but I can't wait for that steam to release and to see what happens in the game. I will talk to you on the other side, my friend.
Thank you, Mike.
All right, there you have it. Teeny and Mike and Teeny took a photo, I believe, not the most famous photo that Mike Bloom took that night.
Yes. Listen, there's a lot of fun faces around at the time.
Not a lot of yassified Mike Bloom photo.
Well, I wonder if it was from that night.
I
Maybe
think
we
it
could-
was. I think it
Yeah.
was.
I mean, listen, that night, those series, a couple days, actually had quite a few people from season 47 as well.
Mhm.
So that was basically like day negative 30 of Survivor 47, and we didn't even know it.
All right, but let's talk a little bit about Teeny and Teeny. Infectious energy, very excited to be there. And so I'm always thrilled for people when there's, okay, this is my dream to get to do this. And, you know, I'm thrilled for people like Teeny who, you know, are right there. It's so exciting for them.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that's a reason why Jeff likes to bring on people that not only know the game, but love the game, no matter when you hop into it. It's just that energy and enthusiasm that also helps you kind of meet production as well when it comes to all these things being thrown their way. And I will say, look, I talked about this with Asia, Rob, that just because you have this unbridled enthusiasm and knowledge of the game does not always translate into being a
Sure.
good Survivor player. For what it's worth, I think Teeny could be like an underratedly good winner pick for this season.
Yeah, I think that Teeny has the upside to sort of like be underestimated in
Yeah.
terms of like, you know, we've seen it before with players like Erica or players that are sort of like smaller in stature. I think especially the women will be overlooked and people do not see them coming. That could be a deadly mistake for some of the other players that are out here in the game. She says she recognizes AW and is ready
We ain't
to
talking root beer, Rob.
ready to work with AW. So that's also good. And I think that also smartly identifies that, okay, well, what do I want to get rid of the podcaster, but that's going to out me as a podcast listener.
Yeah, that's really interesting as well. There's a little bit of like mutually assured destruction of not only do I have sort of a, albeit one-sided relationship with this person at this point, knowing who they are and knowing their knowledge of the show, but also like if I go up to somebody in the first couple days and say, oh, this person knows a lot about Survivor, let's get rid of them. The implication is also, well, don't you also know a lot about Survivor if you know somebody who also knows a lot about Survivor? So there is this interesting sort of dance as well. And I do wonder, like, I would imagine, we'll talk about this in a little bit. I think Asia and Teeny might be one of the tightest pairs that exists, at least primarily or initially, based on this pre-existing dynamic. But, you know, is it an alliance fundamentally built to last on that as well? Especially considering that like both of them know the game so well that I think it's only going to be a certain amount of time before they're like, yeah, we can't go to the end with all super fans. Like, we all know how to make our perfect final tribal council pitch.
Yeah. Well, you have to go with somebody. So that, you know, good problem to have like later on in the game of trying to figure that out. But I think that the idea is just get to a point where you're within striking distance for now. Mike, have you ever contacted your text door neighbor?
I have not. I have not been that adventurous.
Do it now.
You want me to text my text door neighbor now?
Mhm.
Okay. All right. Should I go up or down, Rob?
Up.
Should I up? Okay. All right. What should I text to them? Can you dictate
You're
for
my
me?
text door neighbor.
You're my text door neighbor. Should I include an emoji in there? Can we circle this up?
Do like the crazy emoji. Well, that, you know, we did reference a certain Survivor winner in Teeny's interview. Have it like the crazy eyes with like the tongue hanging out.
Oh, I like that. Okay.
Like, I'm a crazy text door neighbor. What do you want
like,
from me?
Hey, welcome me in. That's really the image you want to see on your electronic front door. All right. So I'm gonna do the wink with the tongue out. All right. Well, we'll see where that goes. I think it might go a little worse than the possibility of an Asia Teeny relationship.
All right, we might have to extend this podcast another 10 minutes to make sure we hear the response. But anyway, this I think is going to be very fun for Teeny.
Yeah, well, what I will say, Rob, is that this is not technically Teeny's first foray into the world of playing a game of Survivor.
Okay.
Teeny has done one of these live reality games, these LRGs. I believe she recently participated in a season of, I think it was like Survivor Gettysburg that aired earlier this year on YouTube. And look, I'm sure there's plenty of arguments.
If she did Survivor Gettysburg, is she out of the running for Survivor 50, or that's okay?
I mean, I guess they say play like it's your second time playing, and I guess this technically is for Teeny. But I'm sure there's argument out there as to like, do LRGs count, especially online? Do ORGs count? I do think that, again, it's not a one-for-one comparison, but Teeny did have to play a game of social strategy where she was interacting with people, trying to persuade them, trying to, sneak behind their back, pull off some big moves, trying to find idols, trying to win challenges. And she did respectable. I think she ended up finishing in 6th place. So I think it's at least going to come in handy somewhat. There are at least some skills that carry over from doing one of these like 4-day things in a park versus going to the island and playing it proper.
Okay. All right. Mike, we've got 6 people and some interesting developments. I've got my cards out.
Yes.
So, all right. So if Asia and Teeny are going to be there, that you would think off the bat aren't going to go after one another, right?
Yeah. I would imagine that the two of them are going to be in pretty lockstep initially. I don't see any reason why they wouldn't want to turn on each other, why they would want to turn on each other. I think even, Rob, there might be a mention that will obviously not make air, but like, can't you think they're on the beaches of Fiji looking up at that beautiful starry night and say, let's do it for Rob?
I don't know about that, Mike, but look, I love that for them. Okay. So now Kashawn was the person that I have bad vibes from Asia, bad vibes from Teeny. He sees them together. He's not going to like that.
Yeah.
So now, okay. Now, Mike, we have Rome, we have Saul, we have Genevieve still. Now, I am very curious about, could Saul's buddy be Kashawn? Do you think that, is that Saul works in the medical field? Here's Kashawn, the doctor. Is it possible?
Yeah, so the way that I was seeing Lavo laid out here is not too dissimilar from what we initially thought the dynamics of Siga would be, which is I'm not surprised at all if we get a coalition between the 3 women of Asia and Teeny, and they bring Genevieve in. And then they pick up a guy, either Saul, if indeed like Teeny was the person that Saul was talking about.
Saul's Angels?
Saul's Angels, or Rome as well. I think that we talked about this last time, that I think Rome and Asia could have a good connection as well. And so I imagine that would be the group, which would leave a combination of Kashawn and either Rome or Saul on the outs.
I just, we have Genevieve also. Is it possible that Genevieve and Kashawn could link up? Could that be a duo?
I mean, Genevieve is definitely the biggest wild card here, partially because the way she obviously talked about herself in my interview was like, yeah, well, I really could go one of 2 different ways. So I could also see a world where, like, even for a brief portion of time, the women decide to work together, but like Genevieve presents herself as maybe too much of a loose cannon or doesn't necessarily vibe with what's going on, that they decide like, okay, she's too much of a liability here. We need to bar her from our alliance court, if you will. So I wouldn't necessarily count her out as a prospective first boot either. Honestly, I think it would be between, depending on when this tribe goes, if they go early enough, I would say it's probably between Genevieve and Kashawn. Yeah.
I feel like I could see Rome with Asia and Teeny. And then it's going to come down to like, what do the other 3 people end up doing? And okay, interesting to see how it plays out. But I feel like that, I think Genevieve or Kashawn have a lot to say in terms of how this is all going to go down.
Yeah, but who knows? If it turns out that like they really need strength in puzzles, again, I would imagine that Kashawn would be someone to turn to just based on the scholarly way that he presents himself, and so maybe he'll be seen as an asset there. Genevieve might be somebody who actually does get in really well and hits the positive end of that mood spectrum. I mean, who knows, Rob? I don't really see anything glaringly as much of an Achilles heel, quite literally, for Rome challenge-wise. with this group. So I feel like all that assessment kind of got thrown out the window last season when we're like, look at Yanu, they're so strong and all around. Surely they're going to crush the challenges, only to see what happens. I'm not looking at this group really seeing a huge hot mess tribe. But from what we saw between Yanu and Nami, it's almost incorrect to even make those assumptions about how often they'll go to tribal council. So who knows? Maybe there's a chance that they all win out anyway, and it doesn't necessarily matter. But I do think the three safest in the pre-merge for me would probably be Asia, Rome, Teeny, and then maybe like Saul probably being kept around for strength, and then one of Kashan or Genevieve or both going early. But if this group immediately decides to start playing, if you have someone like Rome that is looking to start hustling like he does, and then you have someone like Saul who has that poker player knowledge wanting to come in and be his ride or die, then we could have chaos cause almost immediately here.
Okay. Mike, who's coming up on day 4?
All right, so day 4, we are going from red to yellow. It is time to move on to another tribe as we are talking Gata, the yellow tribe. And tomorrow, we're talking about 2 A's here. We have Andy, who might be yet another familiar face to those that are in the RHAP community, and Annika.
Okay, Andy and Annika coming up on day 4. Make sure you hit that subscribe button to get that episode as well. And Mike, what's coming up for you over on parade.com?
Well, listen, if you're already chomping at the bit to hear about Gata, I got you covered over at parade.com. I already have at this point all written interviews with the 6 members of Gata. Feel free to check that out. I'll be moving on next to the Blue tribe, the Tuku tribe. So check all that out over at parade.com and everything else I'm doing at a Mike Bloom type.
All right. Thank you all so much for joining us. Once again, we love to get your comments on these interviews that you hear, how you think it's all going to play out. Just, of course, keep it classy, everybody. All right. Thank you so much for checking out another Survivor 47 preview here. Take care. Have a good one. Bye.